Welcome back to Across the Pond. It's been a long time. I can't even remember the last one was. Probably quarter of the way through last season. So, how is everybody? Welcome back, Ross. You're becoming quite a popular chap now on podcasts and live streams, and so you're obviously difficult to fit in with all your social media work. How are you?
I'm good, yeah. Making the rounds. I've got a lot of brands to promote, so just make sure I get my 5 minutes at the end to promote my own brands. Yeah, no problem.
Some Ross adverts, no problem at all. We can fit those in. Nate, how are you, mate?
Yeah, not so bad, Mike. Yeah, it's been. It feels like it's the winter over here in London is being grim and dark and wet, but I'm sure it's a fraction of how bad it is up in Scotland with Ross, and I'm sure parts of the US where the other members of the group are. But no, it's been all right. It's crazy how quickly sort of the season sort of unraveled and our Super Bowl's done, and before we realize it's combined. So it's quite a slow but exciting time of the year type thing.
Yeah. And it's funny. We're only 2 and a bit weeks removed from the Super Bowl, and I already miss football. It's already like my Sunday nights. I've got to spend talking to the missus and watching shit TV. Not locking myself in a separate room and just watching Red Zone for 7 hours.
Yeah, getting all the family series is on now, and your Bridgertons and your Weird and Wonderfuls.
We watch a lot of American TV, so it's not too bad. But even so, it's still got to speak to her on a Sunday night. Yeah, rather be watching football. Right, so as you just said, the season's over. Super Bowl's just finished. Let's chat about the Super Bowl first. I know obviously it's been discussed quite a lot. And the New England Chiefs won again. Sorry, the Kansas City Chiefs won again. I know, a bloody dynasty on our hands. What did you think of it? What was the views?
It was great. I thought it was a really good game. I know at the start it was more of a defensive battle, bit back and forth, but enjoyable. Few turnovers, few fumbles, and then obviously the drama at the end. That's all you can ask for. As a neutral, that's all you can ask for. As it goes down to the last play, and it went down to the last play twice, didn't it? Obviously, it was a one in the fourth quarter, then one in overtime as well. And I'm sort of glad the Chiefs won. I'm not that bothered as a neutral, obviously, but it's just nice to see Mahomes win again, and it's quite funny to watch people rage about Brock Purdy not being good enough, and it's nice to see Kyle Shanahan still not get his hands on the trophy as well. So a few funny storylines from that side, but yeah, it was an enjoyable game, quite exciting. Even at 4 in the morning or whatever it is, ended up going to bed. It was still buzzing for the last quarter in overtime.
Yeah,
my last portion of chicken wings at 3 o'clock in the morning. I was doing chicken wings all night. More chicken wings.
Credit to you guys. I didn't make it, and I almost shot myself in the foot because I had every intention of watching the full game, and sort of stayed up. And obviously, the kickoff was about 11:30 p.m. our side, so midnight.
That's
23:30
for Shaq.
Yeah, 23:30, and obviously, I don't know about you guys, but I didn't take the day off work on Monday, so I knew I was having to be in the office online at 7 a.m. So I was sort of this is just going to be a long day, and I got through the first quarter, and then my eyes were getting darker and heavier, and because it was quite a cagey affair to start the game, and it was just really slow build up, and I remember maybe in the first 5 minutes of the second quarter, I dozed off. And then I briefly remember waking up and then seeing Usher just grinding on Alicia Keys in front of me. And I was like, what's going on here? I was a bit sort of disorientated at the moment. And then by the end of his halftime show, I fell asleep again. Then I woke up and it was during overtime and I was trying to stay awake and I just kept passing out. So I managed to watch the highlights in the morning, but it was pretty epic Super Bowl in the end.
So I book the second the season schedule's announced. I book the Monday off work for the following year.
Season pro, Mike.
Yeah, too many times I've tried to start watching late night games and realizing you got an hour's sleep. Is that the real stuff or the?
Yeah, I've gone the double zeros.
Zero.
For all our great sober members. It's a good drop. Guinness Zero goes down very well.
Well, I'm certainly alcohol free today after what I did yesterday, so I will not.
There's my Nathan's 5 minutes of promotion, Ross. Over to you.
I've got some peach and passion fruit, sparkling water. There you go. Sponsored by whatever unicorns.
Blackcurrant.
There we go.
Classic. Got to go with the
I
classic.
have got the emergency stash for the mornings. I get really tired about working from home.
So Mike, what was your sort of reaction? What was your reaction to the Super Bowl? Like, were you happy, upset, sort of mixed emotions, indifferent?
Not being neutral, what you want is a good game, and as Ross said, that's what it was. It was the first half was chess match. I mean, the Chiefs couldn't seem to get anything going. The Niners seemed to be on top. As we've now read, Spagnuolo made some changes at half time, and the second half was completely different. The Chiefs seemed to stop the Niners and actually be able to move the ball a bit better as well. So I really enjoyed it. I always like watching football, whether it's even a sort of wet Monday night game, Jets versus someone that's no interest, and I watch them all. It's fun.
Jets versus the Bears.
They are showing why they are such a good team. They can play badly and still win, right? The Chiefs. So they're not destroying teams. They're functioning and getting victories from defensive side mainly this year. And I think it sort of shows how integral all three parts of the game are. I mean, the special teams basically almost won the game for them, right?
Yep.
So those actually unlucky bounce on the punt that hit the receiver, kicking teams, all these sort of things. It's difficult. Little margins make big differences in these games. So, I mean, you got to hand it to them. They did a job and won it. In fact, it was a fun game to watch. It was very technical. And yeah, next year it'll be the Jets versus the Bears. Well, no, it can't be the Jets versus the Bears. But anyway, yeah, that's fine. Well, anyway, Bears won. Bears
How can it not be the Jets versus the Bears? No. Just because you are so bad, or is that
we're 2 years away. You're 1 year away. That's all right. That's fine.
Well, get a Caleb versus A-Rod.
Yeah, if he makes it that long, yeah.
Was it 1 more year in his contract or 2? Can't remember what he's got.
I don't care. I'm very down on the Jets this year already, so I'll believe it when I see it.
But isn't this your favourite part of the season, where you could win something at this stage?
Yeah,
Full of hope. Full of hope.
I've been beaten down. But it seems that it's because I know what we're going to do. We're going to get an offensive tackle in the draft, and we're going to try and sign a wide receiver. So the blueprint's there. We just need to wait until the season to see what happens. Usually, it's the excitement of we've got a new quarterback, or the quarterback could be a lot better than he normally is. So now we know what's happening. It's just about waiting until September.
What draft pick do the Jets have?
We're just outside the range of good players, I think. Number 10? How have I forgotten this already? 10th.
Okay, yeah, and it looks like most mock drafts do have you going after a tackle to protect Zach Wilson, I'm sure.
Yeah, because he'll definitely be in there very soon after Aaron Rodgers.
He's a Stellenbosch Saint, so he's bound to start. I'm telling you, it's going to happen.
I forgot he's your starting quarterback after you parted ways with Josh Allen last season.
Mate, please stop bringing that up. That's about 4 seasons ago now.
No, crazy.
We've all moved on.
No, I've got big letters here. Nate traded.
Mike, what are your thoughts on the Bears 101? This is the $1 million question. Are you Caleb, or are you sticking with Fields and trading back?
I think financially it makes sense to move on to Williams, and if we get a decent return for Fields, we do that. Or if the return for Fields isn't great, and we're not, as I said, I don't think we're like 1 year away. We are a few years away from being as competitive as any other team. So maybe trading away the 101 and getting multiple first picks over the next couple of seasons. I don't know. I mean, as you and I know, we have discussed this. I don't think it's all Fields' fault how bad he's been. I think the fact he spends his life running for his life or on his back because someone's bloody sacked him, it doesn't help your figures. And if you're running out the pocket every 10 seconds because you've got the entire defense coming down on you, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're Aaron Rodgers or Drew Brees. You are not necessarily going to be as accurate as you could be. I think we trade Fields. Also, Fields obviously wasn't Poles' draft pick, right? That's the last regime's player. This is he's got his chance to get the 101. If he really feels that Caleb Williams is the guy, then I guess that's what we do. And then by 109, we're probably taking a wide receiver or whoever, depending on who was on board. But I think we need a lot of work on our O line as well. So
yeah, you're probably sniping the Jets for tackle there at 109. Ross,
a lot of the mocks I see is who's it? Daisy or Deasy, the wide receiver. Can't remember it.
Roma Dunze.
That's the one. Yeah, he seems to be heavily touted for the 109 if he goes that far down.
Oh, because you've got the 101 and you've got the 109. I forget. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Ross, as the neutral, well, I'm relatively neutral as well. What's your take on Justin Fields in terms of, is he someone you'd want to keep if you were part of the Bears team and sort of trade back and build around him? And then on top of that, what sort of draft or tradable value does he have, and where for fantasy reasons, where would you want him to go if he was to leave?
Yeah, so I've always been high on Justin Fields. I liked him coming out. I think I tried to get him from Mike, even though that was a fool's errand when he got drafted by the Bears. I don't think he was ever going to part with him, but I've always liked Fields. Obviously, he's not performed to the standard that I was hoping he would do in the league, but I've always liked him, and I still think he does have potential to be maybe the 15th to 25th best quarterback in the league. He does have some value, I think, but the Bears aren't going to be picking here very often, or you'd hope as a Bears fan, as in the Bears organization, you're not going to be picking here very often. And you do have the opportunity to get Caleb Williams, who I believe, and not to spoiler the draft podcast a wee bit, but I think he's got an insanely high ceiling. His ceiling is best quarterback in the league. So I think you've got to draft that rather than getting the 15th to 25th best quarterback in the field, getting a guy who can be top 5, top 10. So I think you do that. You've got enough picks already, like the 109, to maybe build a little bit more around them. And yeah, I don't think the roster is that bad. Obviously, I'm looking from a neutral's point of view. I maybe don't know the offensive line talent as deep as Mike does watching them every week, but I think obviously DJ Moore, you've got a good, solid receiver there. Add another one, and you've suddenly that room's looking good. And you've got Cole Kmet, who's done well as well. So yeah, I'd take Caleb Williams, and just sort of the easiest way to turn around your franchise is to get a franchise quarterback.
Yeah, I think in my heart of hearts, I think that's the right move. I just happen to I do like Fields as a player, and obviously fantasy wise, his value is quite good fantasy wise as well. So if he does move on, hopefully he goes to a franchise that lets him run and rack up loads of points on that front. So,
Mike,
yeah, I think
Mike, as an owner of Fields and the fantasy side of things, and obviously we know you'll sort of have your relative bias with the Bears, but as a fantasy owner, where would you want him to go if he was to leave? And for him as a player, two questions. On the NFL side, where do you think is the best fit for him? And on the second side, where do you think is the best fantasy fit for him? If they might be the same answer.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's a lot of talk about the Falcons. I think he'd probably the O-line there isn't too bad. They underperformed because the quarterback wasn't great. They've got the other pieces there already. They've got a good tight end. They've got good wide receiver. They've got a good running back. They've got a lot of things in place already. Whether they feel the expense of bringing someone else in that's going to cost them in 2 years' time relatively big money. I think fantasy-wise, that'll probably help him as well because they're not expecting him to run all the time. There'll be a lot more sort of design quarterback runs rather than just scrambling as well. I think now after Smith seems to be out of the way there, their playbook. I mean, the fact they ignored most of the best players on the team week in, week out for targets last year. I mean, why? Okay, you might get ready at once. Yeah, I mean, was it the 85 Super Bowl? The running back, who's the star all season, hardly even touches the ball because they just designed it that everyone followed Peyton out of the way.
So a bluff, essentially.
Yeah, but you can't do that every single week because then your star players become obsolete. So,
you're saying Jonnu Smith is not a star player? Jonnu Smith, absolute dynamite. You've got to feed him the ball.
He
I
ended
mean, in
up
all fairness, he
daring
had some
Carl
big
Pitts.
games, right? He had some big games there. I mean, he obviously, but you pick these first round picks to perform, right? You don't spend, was it last 3 years, 3 first rounders on offensive talent and then give the journeyman tight end all the ball. It doesn't work in my head. It's like, you drafted a 101 QB and let him sit and never play, ever play him. I mean, obviously Jordan Love sat for a few years, come in, done well, but keep your first round pick for 5 years and then just let someone else. It doesn't make sense why you'd invest a first round draft pick and not use these guys. I think I'd rather, as a fantasy owner, see him at somewhere like the Falcons over the Patriots. I think the Patriots, the transitions will be longer there from what they've got and what they're going forwards. Whereas fantasy-wise, I think the Falcons would be a better home for him. Or the Saints. You need a quarterback.
Yeah, look, I wish. I'll take Fields over Derek Carr any day of the week. But that's just not happening with the amount of money we're paying Derek Carr. I think there are a lot of variables. There've been a lot of head coaching changes this off season. So you do talk about the Patriots, but you never know. Someone like Jared Mayer might be Fields is the future of this whole franchise and build around him. So and on the flip side, he ends up with the Falcons with unbelievable weapons, and maybe he is sort of tied down to just checking the ball down and running occasionally. So again, and this is where people who trade frequently in fantasy, this is where you make your margins, and they're obviously quite bold positions to take. Because none of us actually know what's going to happen. Unless you're actually working for any of these teams behind the scenes, it's all speculation. We can obviously all read a million different articles, but it is sort of backing your instinct, reading enough sort of material, consuming enough content that you want to say, cool, I think wherever Fields is, he's a great fantasy value. Or it's the flip side, the sort of devil's advocate argument saying, if the Bears, one of the weaker teams in the NFL, are moving away from a guy like Fields, maybe he isn't anything better than a Trubisky. And I know that's a harsh extreme, right? But what I'm saying is that there are sort of arguments, and that's why this is sort of maybe the moment to trade players like that when they do have a bit of unknown quantity and getting either the high value for them or not. And I'm not trying to force you into a trade, but I think this is where trades are won and lost, is when there is a variable in a player's career, like around free agency or around sort of the draft. Like trading draft picks is the same. It's finding that slight competitive edge. And it's a bit of luck at the end of the day. It's not rocket science. I don't think there is maths to it to a certain extent, but it is lucky. But this is why we all love this time of the year, because there is so much unknown.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, so in case if I'm being, I'll be nice. I'll take 2 first rather than 4 for him. That's fine. As with the uncertainty of his future. Oh, so going back to the Super Bowl, Sam, you cost me money, making me put money on Brock Purdy MVP. Terrible man.
Even if the Chiefs won it, I don't think he was going to get MVP. Even if the Chiefs won, it was a
probably not.
That's
Joanne Jennings.
That's why my bet. Yeah. I was a bit worried, to be fair, because when I was obviously when we spent that day with Sam here in London, obviously quite a lot of alcohol was consumed, and the energy was high, and the emotions and the passions were going. And Sam obviously put his flag down on Purdy. And the one thing I'll take away from the season is I am convinced Purdy is a very, very, very good system quarterback. Sam will keep fighting me on this, right, in terms of system versus talented. System is not a negative thing. I would argue Drew Brees is one of the best system quarterbacks that's ever lived. And so, to me, he is able to facilitate unbelievable players around him to get the best out of them. And I thought he had an okay Super Bowl. And look, I'm glad I ended up taking my $20 or whatever off Sam. But there were a few worries at the start of the game. I was like, oh no, Purdy's going to go all right here.
Yeah, I thought he was quite steady. But yeah, go back to that drinking. Yeah, Sam, after about 12 pints, I think it was, started going, yeah, Brock Purdy for MVP. I was like, yeah, it's a great idea. Let's put money on Brock Purdy. Yeah.
Mike, myself, Sam, and his mate, and Sam's mate Nico. We're in like a chippy shop in East London at about 10 p.m. having a fish and chips, and we were just
mushy peas, chips, but the peas were on the side, not on top.
And we were absolutely solving all the debates the NFL has, and it was a great day out. Yeah, thanks again to Sam popping over.
Yeah. We'll have to sort of rock up wherever he's in the States at some point for a pub crawl.
Yeah, all three of us will have to make a plan. Ross, on that note, I think between us, Ross, I've actually got a wedding up in Scotland. I'll tell you when it is. It's in it is in the end of August or the end of June. I'll tell you it's in summer. I'll let you know. See if we can sneak a pint somewhere.
It'd be beautiful. Do you know where it is?
It is
Scotland.
It's Perthshire. It's in Perthshire. So
Very nice.
That's just north of Edinburgh, right?
Yeah. Very. My football team I support comes from Perth, so yeah, beautiful part of the country. I'm sure it'll be good, but I'm sure we could link up as well. Hit me up.
I'll let you know, and then and at some stage we all have to embark on a travel to the Midlands in the middle and try find Johnny English, because rumor has it he sells refrigerators in Leicester or something.
I think he's a retired man now. If I remember right, I think he retired last year. Managed to retire very early.
We'll have to reach out to Johnny English.
Yeah, because Leicester's not that far away, really. Probably a 3-hour drive from us. I don't know.
Yeah, it's sort of in the middle. It's obviously quite a bit further for Ross than us, but it's in sort of the middle of England.
Ross can fly to the Emil Heskey International Airport in Leicester.
Is that what it's called? I wouldn't be surprised.
No. For those who don't, Emil Heskey played for Leicester for a few years, and he's an okay footballer. But yeah, no, it's probably the Gary Lineker Airport or something like that. But
yeah, Jamie Vardy's having a party.
Yeah.
Anyway, Mark, what were you hoping to give the listeners today? Maybe a review.
I thought if we could, as we've done a little bit of the NFL news, and obviously the more, I think next week's when the tags start getting. I think next week the tags to be decided by. I think if we focus tonight more on the fantasy football side of things, maybe have a little chat about the playoffs that we had recently ourselves. Well, recently it's quite 2 months ago now, and sort of maybe discuss how we thought we got on and how maybe some of the surprises of the season. And obviously, the biggest surprise in certainly on our side on the RR was Tyler. I think all season long he just week after week, surprise, and the playoffs he did really well first two. He was fairly unlucky, I think, against the eventual champions of Rottweilers. I think he lost by 30 points, but that progression from being pink to finishing up in, where did he finish overall? He finished
fourth
overall. It's a great achievement, right? This is what we're all striving to do. That and obviously that last step's quite a long way, but then obviously Matt with the Rottweilers, he's taken time to build, and he got it right this year, and it's functioned really well. I'm not sure how much free agency he's got coming up and people to protect. I know Pigskins obviously got quite some big names this year on free agency. But I guess they'll be trying to keep as many of those as possible. Ross, you got many up for your free agents on yours, or?
So I sold them all before the end of the season to Tyler for Tank Dell. So I think I sold 6 guys on like 0-year contracts. But I've got Jalen Hurts who's going to get super franchise tag. I'll spoil that news for you right now. But other than that, not really anyone interesting. So I'll be I don't know, try to pick up a few more defensive players in the RFA. That seems to be my way of doing it. Defense for RFA, offense for draft.
Obviously, you got your best quarterback under contract anyway for one more year. Tannehill.
So I thought you were going to say Mac Jones. That's
you got him for 4 years. You got him for 4 years.
Oh, that's fine then. He'll be out league in 2, so it's fine.
So I did a trade with Ross with Tyler last year. I swapped Mac Jones for Trey Lance. That worked really well.
I think both of you haven't won or lost that trade.
And what I did do, I think I saved myself 1 year of contract space. It's basically the only gain I got out of that. Although, you know, who knows? With Dak Prescott wanting $65 million a year or something, maybe Trey becomes the guy who takes over at the Cowboys.
Look, I've got Trey Lance as well, I think on 2 years deal. So let's hope that Dak has a proper holdout the whole season. And we'll get Trey Lance cooking in Dallas.
You've really whiffed, Nate. You've got Trey Lance and Zach Wilson. You've just you've invested in the wrong draft class.
I've had like a draft class from a couple of years ago. I've also done well to pick up all the side hustles. Sam Darnold. I think I ended up with Clayton Tune as well. I've got Aiden O'Connell though, which could be an interesting player there. But I've got absolutely nothing at quarterback. I've got Kyler Murray, who's finally back from injury, and it seems like the Cardinals are sort of backing him, which I was actually very pleased with at the end of that. But yeah, who knows? Let's hope he stays fit, and let's hope he doesn't leave and go play baseball or something stupid.
Like, I guess they got a few $100 million invested in him, so they want to keep him as sharp as possible. So
yeah, you would hope so. Just
looking at your roster. Oh, Travis Swift's a free agent, I see.
Yeah, I think I did quite well there. I don't know. I'd like to take your guys' opinion on it, but I saw that Travis Kelce was added to the trade bait in the PP, and I know Kenny, the Crystal Lake counselors, he was looking originally for a second. I tried my luck, offered him a fourth, and he said, "Let's meet in the middle and take a third." So I just thought, I'm obviously I've tried to hedge this year in the sense I've got 3 first-round picks and 3 second-round picks. So I felt that my third round was sort of dispensable. And I felt for someone like Travis Kelce, why not? Look, I'm in an absolute rebuild. So the fact of the matter is Kelce's probably got actually very little value to my team in terms of outcome. But I'm trying to think what I will do with him because he was already extended last year. So I can't just kick him down the road for another year. So I'm sort of playing up, do I like TT tag him and try essentially let him go for a second round pick, and then I've actually just moved up 1 round for free, or do I do something really gutsy and just comp tag him? It's something that's playing on my mind. Like, do I just comp tag someone, Travis Kelce? But I'm just so worried that everyone's going to sort of turn their backs a little bit on Kelce. I think we need to obviously see what happens this offseason. I think he'll still have value, but it's whether or not I'll get more value for him during the season or during RFA, really.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah,
I like the idea of the tagging him. So then you've got an instant sort of upgrade already if someone does try to claim him. But if not, then you can obviously put some years on him and try and trade him during the season after he has a couple of big games, which he's bound to have. He's maybe dropped off a little bit in terms of regular season. He's resting during the regular season, waiting for the playoffs. But I'm sure he'll still have some big games and he'll be up there in the tight end sort of rankings.
Well, looking at his reaction during the Super Bowl, he's not happy to be rested or not targeted. I think Andy Reid got the full brunt of him screaming in his face.
Worked out.
Yeah, it worked out. They won. They took over the Lombardi, so I think all worked out well in the end, definitely.
Kept him on the field. Mike, what were your playoffs like last year? Because where do you sort of find yourself? You stamped your ticket to the big time, and then what happened?
Didn't quite make it.
You are unlucky though. You had the Pigskins in the first round, which is quite tough, didn't you?
I had
the
crunch in the first round, which I had the best week I had all season, just shy of 400 points. Actually, I thought I'm going to finally get my first 400-point game. Didn't quite get there. And then the performance just dropped off the week after, and the Rottweilers ran all over me.
Well, you lost to the eventual champions. There's nothing to be ashamed about.
Yeah, then I had another bad week against Pigskins, so that was another loss. So then I played Shaq in the
Santa Bowl
place. Yeah, the Santa Bowl. I managed to secure that, so quite happy to do that. One place better than last year. So how many draft picks and first round picks I used last season? I only got one bloody spot. So probably not worth the investment, but we'll see.
Remind us.
I've got some draft picks this year. Well, currently got some draft picks this year, shall I say?
Remind us what you won for the Secret Santa Bowl.
There's no price. So the price of the Secret Santa Bowl is over all the futures and the main league, and the highest score of the 4 teams wins the prize. So who's now creating a serial Bob and the Slashers won it for the 2nd year running. So they won it last year in the Futures League, and they won it this year in the main league as well. So back-to-back wins for Bob.
Okay.
The three-peat.
Yeah. Look, I'm sure he'd like to get away from the 7th place playoff and get himself higher up. But back-to-back wins for 2 prizes in 2 years. I mean, it's not that bad, is it? So
exactly. And then Ross, talk us through your playoff run.
I was in the losers bracket, so I didn't make the big time. But I was the best team in not the best team in RR, the best worst team in RR, and then got beat by the Spurs in the best of the worst championship game. So I won a couple of games. I think I had a bye, won a couple of games, but yeah, it means nothing. It means absolutely nothing. It's in the losers bracket, so yeah, I was pretty much just setting my lineup every week. I wasn't interested. I was in a dark place. I was in a dark place around that time.
But yeah, I think you realised that a few weeks before into the season when you were doing your trades that you knew the season was over and it's all about next season and get ready for that already, wasn't it? So doesn't surprise me you felt with that.
Yeah, I was going back and forward all season, going up and down. I think I went on a good run for a while, but yeah, then I think I got a couple of injuries and my team was already very thin and I just couldn't handle it. So yeah, I started trading away a couple of guys on 0 year.
It's a bit like the Blitz, right? The Blitz started off quite strong and then suddenly had a couple of wobbly weeks and then Mike just went, right, it's all about next year. Just we're out. I think we still finished 6 and 6, so sort of shows you the sort of how many. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's four teams. 4 out of the 12 teams are 6 and 6. It shows you how quite fine the balance of the league is, really. Obviously, the Pigskins dominated 11 and 1, and we got Matt 9 and 3,
Good.
Arsenic 8 and 4. Yeah, so you got obviously some good top tier teams and a few lower teams that are sort of struggling. But the middle of the pack's quite tight, I think. I think chapter 12 went down to pretty much the wire with Corbyn. But even Corbyn, I think, towards the end, started changing his focus the next season with some of the trades as well. So maybe I got a bit lucky to top out on chapter 12. We'll try again next year.
I think it's always an interesting theory or sort of game plan is do you do whatever you can just to sort of stamp a ticket to get to the top playoff? Or do you sort of turn early and just rebuild and sort of hope for next year? Because the reality is there are only ever 1 or 2 or 3 sort of maybe powerhouses, like sort of 3 favorites. And we've seen it so often. They can easily have off weeks. You look at the Pigskins, and everyone probably thought the Pigskins were going to win hands down the whole thing. And look, they got as far as they could, but they ended up losing to Tyler in week 14. And they lost to Tyler. They still put up 310 points, which is competitive. But Tyler outdid them and scored his 317 points. So those are sort of the cases of you just sort of stamp your ticket. But it does seem like sort of the quality sort of always gets to the top at the end of the day. And if your team is not if you don't think your team is ready to win, sometimes it is worth sort of moving things around. But yeah, different people have different theories. I remember my first year, I did whatever I could just to win my chapter, just to win $50. I was like, great. Put my $50 in the bank, but then losing the first round of the playoffs, and it sort of hamstrung me a bit. So I don't know. It's all different theories and different game plans and different ways of looking at it.
And I think
you've got to be like the first one to sell as well. If you decide to go into a rebuild, like it's good to be the first one and then you get all the takers, get all their draft picks. And I think you did that, Nate, as well. You're trying all year on the fire sale. So I think it was from week 1 you had to the sale up in the window.
Look, I got bored looking at that. It was like, here's my entire roster. It's for sale. Here's my entire roster, -1.
Look, I think I took the rebuild to the extreme in the sense that if you look at my roster, apart from CD Lamb, obviously, look, I've just acquired Travis Kelce, but I didn't have him last year. Apart from CD Lamb, there's zero offensive quality at all, right? Maybe a Scary Terry or something like this, or Michael Pittman. Okay, good.
Pittman, yeah.
Yeah, but there's nothing. I don't have running back. And then on the defensive side, I do have pieces, but I feel that it's easier to pick up defensive depth in our league, sort of in RFA and trading. There's not much high value. So yeah, I was obviously trying to be as proactive as I could this year, because I knew this year was a massive game-changing season for me. It will probably be the most important season I have in the minors, because it was the year I needed to do whatever I could to get as much draft capital, keep some sort of pieces, try to build my war bucks, and rebuild as quickly as possible. I don't want to be in a position where I was this year, where I ended the regular season as the worst ranking in the PP. Obviously, I squeezed past Pink by one result by some miracle. Ended up in the Urine Bowl, and I ended up finishing 23rd out of 24. So I didn't have a great season. It wasn't very fun. But yeah, sometimes you just have to do certain things. But at least I've got the 101, I've got the 103, and I've got the 111, and I've got 3 seconds. And so now it's all about draft scouting and making sure I don't miss. Otherwise, it could be a long season again.
Yeah, because you've got like you said, you've got a few holes you need to fill in pretty quickly. I mean, I think you could probably ignore quarterback for a season because you've got such good talent at quarterback.
My biggest dilemma now, and I'm sort of getting sidetracked looking at the draft, I'm sure we'll talk about it at a later stage, is because I've got the 101 and 103, I'm really, really considering like Marvin Harrison at the 101, because I know I'll end up with Caleb or Drake May, or even Jaden Daniels. So there's good depth there at quarterback, because I've got that suspicion that if I go Caleb Williams with 101 and then Marvin Harrison goes 102, I'm in a situation where I have to go quarterback at 103. So then I end up taking 2 quarterbacks, which fine. Like I'm not scared of taking 2 quarterbacks. But at the same time, it's missing out on someone like a Marvin Harrison who could be a generational talent. But we don't know. It's all.
So you could be the PP version of the Rottweilers collecting quarterbacks. That's what you could end up doing there.
Yeah, I just need to make sure I don't miss.
What, four starting quarterbacks on his roster, I think, at the moment, or something like that. And then there was Craig
last year, though. So
yeah, they were. I think that's where Craig, because Craig did the draft review of what he thought people were picking, and he missed the A. Rich and the one that was on IR. So yeah, you already had 2 decent starting quarterbacks. Yeah, so take 2 more quarterbacks. Yeah, 6 is fine. 6 starting quarterbacks. That's absolutely perfect. Then I suppose on that front, you have got the value, right? The trade. If these guys start performing, your 103 becomes 2 first-round picks or 3 first-round picks. So in that respect, actually, it's probably not a bad investment. You look at it that way.
Yeah,
11-year contracts.
I'm doing the redraft for RR at the moment, so that will be after the next couple of days. And it's looking at Tyler's draft, and he actually had a really good job. And then obviously it correlated to getting into the playoffs and almost winning. He had CJ Stroud, Tank Dell, and a few others. So if you just like hit a couple of picks, then you could like be right up there. You've obviously got a couple of good players as well, and that would just help you. So, and I know what you're saying, Mike, as well about the quarterback position. You're sort of insulated with value a bit, unless they're like really bad, like maybe Bryce Young bad.
Yeah.
Then you could probably still get at least your money back in a year's time if you don't fancy them. But yeah,
you get your first round pick, maybe a second or a second. Yeah, even the guys are not that great. If someone through the season, let's say you lose Tannehill, so you're then short of a starting quarterback. It's worth actually getting Bryce Young on a second or a first to if you want that push off run for the playoffs.
Keep yourself stable there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested this year because it's the first time I've had draft picks in 2 seasons. I think it's like the last player I drafted was Zavon Collins. That's how long ago since I've had a draft pick.
So tell us how, because it obviously hasn't been discussed in the forum, but tell us how you ended up with these draft picks, Mike.
Backwards and forwards a bit with the Crunch, who I think was a previous owner of Jamming. He's a big fan of Jamming, and we eventually came to an agreement. I got a 3rd and a 4th round for a 3-year contract on Jamming. I quite liked having quite a lot of linebackers. It wasn't an easy sell for me to do. I think he performed pretty well last year. Whether or not he's a game-changing linebacker like Tyler's guy, ex-Bear, got his name now. Roquan Smith. So that's a real game changer. You'd want. So I think Janning's a good guy that scores regular points each week, but maybe not always pushing it to the sort of the upper extreme of some of them.
Look, I think you've done very well in that trade. I think a third and a fourth for I wouldn't even say Jam is a top 20 linebacker. I think he's a good linebacker, but like maybe top 15, maybe between 15 and 20. Like, and
he's a starting linebacker each week,
yeah,
which is what you're looking for is the guys have the opportunity to each week to rack up the tackles, a few sacks.
Yeah.
This is where I quite like that. Sort of, he was that kind of player I liked last year. I think he played every game for me last year when he was fit. But I think he missed the last 2 games he was injured. But yeah, I think it's that kind of thing you look at. For me, it's the you're getting 12 points each week out of the guy, pretty much, or 15 points. It's you're not going to get 35 or Khalil Mack last year. Suddenly has a week that just explodes. He's not that kind of player, but he'll still be steady in there and scoring. Obviously, recently did my "This Is Your Life" article, which I thought was quite interesting. Seeing how some of my players I thought had done quite well over the years, they just weren't quite in the right bracket. So, and I'm going on an Excel course in a couple of weeks to learn about VLOOKUPs. I'm sick and tired of copy and pasting shit.
So I love it with VLOOKUP.
VLOOKUP, pivot tables and Power BI and all sorts of things I want to get involved with. So, I think it's like last year.
But no, that'll be good. So Ross,
he played 12 of the fifth 12 games, so he missed a couple of games with injury probably in the playoffs. So.
Yeah, I think that was a good trade. Look, as you said, like sort of it's I don't know exactly what pick, but it's sort of mid-third, mid-fourth. So like you can definitely pick up some talented players there.
308 and 404, I think it is.
Yeah, so look, there are dart throws to a certain extent because your 24 best players are off, but it's in the realm of decent upside, high-end defensive players. And maybe, look, I don't like using outliers as examples, but they are. Like, you look at a Puka Nakua went in 6th, 7th round. Like, it's not impossible to hit a home run really deep in the draft. So, like, I think you've done very well. I think you've done well in that trade.
Just need to make sure I hit on the draft picks. I now need to concentrate and actually read some stuff about rookies coming in because I've got no idea how half these people are. So,
you've not had a draft back in years. Has to be a good one now. Has to be a good one.
Well, yeah, and then, assuming I still keep them, I might trade them way before then.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, knowing you'll probably sell them for like $5-10 $10 here and there, and see what you can get for RFA.
Yeah, just so I can cling on to a kicker in RFA. Yeah, or another bloody cornerback.
Yeah, probably another cornerback.
Yeah, I
start those cornerbacks.
A nice collection I've got. Nice collection of cornerback.
How many years do you have tied up into cornerbacks in this year now, this season?
It's not relevant.
Too much. Too many.
7.
So you still got 7 years. Sure, that's
and the best one of the bunch isn't even on the contract. He's a free agent, so that's great, isn't it?
Well, you've got to sign him up. You've got to get him fixed down to a long-term deal.
Yeah, but I think Blam, for me, he mainly got more starts because Diggs was injured, right? I think that's kind of Trevon Diggs was injured, so I think he then got more game time because of that. So whether or not that continues, I don't know. But he's yours for a 5th rounder on a free contract if you want him, then, Ross. Add him to you.
I don't think I've got a 5th. I'm sorry, I would, but I don't think I've got a 5th.
I'll take a 5th in 2026. It's fine.
Ross, how's your draft looking for the Unicorns? Do you have decent capital, or where are you at?
No. I think my first pick is in the 3rd round. So I've just been doing some dealing recently. So I've got a pick in the 3rd. I don't think I've got a 4th. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But I'm I don't really think I've got anything for my first round picks that I gave up. I think I got Foysade Oluokun, was a big one. So I don't know, maybe do some more dealing, get a first round pick, get the rookie fever, see what I can do. But I think I'm maybe looking more towards the long term. So yeah, maybe I will get a first round pick before the draft. But we'll see.
Your first pick is the 211.
Oh, is it? Sorry, I don't even know. Yeah, so it's a 211.
That's a great pick. You put the man on the taxi squad and turn him into a first, and you're smiling.
It's a good year as well. I think it seems to be quite deep draft on the offensive side. So maybe get a wee flyer, a good contributor.
I think it's
unless you want to turn the 211 into two other picks, you can have the 308 and the 404 for your 211. Perfect.
I think you're right, Ross. I think it's going to be an interesting draft because there are no sort of big stand-up running backs, but it's really deep at receiver and arguably quarterback. I don't think there are many day one starter quarterback standard players, but there are a lot of guys who could well get taken by decent teams and back up and then eventually sort of take over. As you say, the likes of your Drake Mays, your Jaden Daniels, your sort of Michael Penix's, JJ McCarthy's, like they've all been at big schools and done well. It's not like a Malik Willis at Liberty here. We're talking about guys who've actually done it in sort of the Big Five leagues, and the wide receivers are pretty deep as well. So yeah, I hope you're right. And also if we look sort of on the IDP side, I think there are quite a few home run hitters on the IDP side that could well sort of sneak up your Dallas Turners, your sort of Chop Robinsons, your Latus. A lot of your sort of edge rushers seem to be getting quite a lot of hype around them. I think the linebackers are not necessarily that great, but the edge rushers are looking pretty strong this year. So it could be interesting to see where the value is.
Yeah, I think obviously there's still a long way to go until the draft, but looking at the running backs, it's more like maybe the mid-tier guys. So there's no Jahmyr Gibbs, there's no Bijan Robinson, but I think you'll still have the strength in the sort of mid-rounds. So that's maybe plays into people who have later picks, who can pick up guys who maybe starting at some point in the season. And then on the quarterbacks as well, if you look at who was starting this year, we had guys like Tyson Bagent, and obviously Aidan O'Connell came in, and all the guys from Minnesota.
Teabag is great. Love Teabag.
Danny DeVito or whatever his name is. Tommy DeVito.
Yeah, I've got Danny DeVito as well. I've got Teabag, Danny DeVito. I've got all these wonderful players.
Yeah, so there's so many spaces for to come in and be a starter. It seems in the NFL these days at quarterback, people are just so quick to move on from guys, and obviously people get injured as well. So I think maybe you might even see like 5 or 6 guys getting starts next year. Rookies, 5 or 6 rookies.
Yeah, that's it'll be interesting. Yeah, what teams, Ross, do you think will prioritize quarterback in the first round? What apart from Bears, if you assume Bears use the 101 for a quarterback, what other teams are glaring you in the face that need quarterbacks early in the draft?
Yeah, so obviously the top 3 guys that are well touted as having maybe looking to pick quarterback, Washington, New England, but then the Giants maybe they'll pick someone like JJ McCarthy, who's maybe a bit more of a sit and wait behind Daniel Jones, but it's really what they're saying is Daniel Jones is shite, get him out of here. But yeah, honestly, almost every team can do with it. Like the guys who are maybe sneaky are guys like Minnesota and the Rams, maybe Seattle as well. Guys who can sort of have a solution, even if it's a short-term solution, but do need to think longer term, because we've seen it being successful recently. And obviously the NFL is a copycat league. So when you see guys like Jordan Love being successful after sitting on the bench for 3 or 4 years, teams are going to look at that and say that's the recipe for success. So we need to sort of plan ahead now.
Yeah, I think the Giants have got a relatively cheap out after this year in Daniel Jones's contract, so it'd make sense to at least have the guy you think could be that guy coming in and sit for the whole year and injury. And if Jones is good for 2 years, the guy sits for 2 years. You just or you trade him away. But I think the Giants need it. Tennessee seem quite happy. I think Atlanta maybe as well. Another sort of quarterback needy team.
Yeah.
Minnesota, depends what day it is you read. He's staying or he's going. He's going to re-sign another contract. Cousins. It'd be interesting to see what they do. Obviously, the players like him. And obviously, Jefferson's beating the drum to re-sign him. So
I think it's also going to be very interesting this year for fantasy implications, because I think a lot of fantasy owners of certain quarterbacks think they have got quite a good value, and they could see that value really ripped out underneath their feet. So you look at guys like Russell Wilson, you look at guys like even Geno Smith, even Sam Howell. These guys are all, if you're an owner of that player, you think these guys have value. Like, it's a bit of a superficial value, and especially in sort of super flex leagues where quarterbacks are so highly valued. Sam Howell, this time at the start of last year, after the first 5 weeks, everyone thought, flip, this guy's arguably one of the next big things. And now Washington are basically predicted to take a quarterback as early as they can. And Sam Howell suddenly the next Baker Mayfield, arguably, or even the next Sam Darnold. Like, everyone's already forgetting about him totally. So I think quarterbacks becoming very, very volatile in fantasy, in playing fantasy, because the injury rate feels a bit higher. The churn of players, obviously losing spots and sort of changing around. Look at Danny Dimes. Danny Dimes, as we've just touched on, paid a huge contract now. And now, what the hell? Like, what's going to happen there? You look at guys like Derek Carr. Like, to me, Derek Carr is just a mid-tier, maybe even sub-mid-tier, bog standard fantasy quarterback. Tannehill was saying for a while, Jimmy Garoppolo. These guys sort of tick boxes, but they're not going to game change at all. So I don't know. I think quarterback is becoming very volatile, and unless you're holding one of the big seven, and I just made up the number 7. I don't know if there are big 7, but it feels more than 5 and it feels less than 10.
Be careful, because according to the stats last year, that makes Jared Goff not a great player. That makes him he's number 8. You're in a lot of trouble now, my friend. A lot of trouble.
But,
so the guys you just mentioned, right? So Sam Howell's 16, Derek Carr 17, Russell Wilson was 11, Mayfield was 10. This is on our
scoring
rank. Scoring. Kenny Pickett's down at 26. Obviously, missed some game time. Mac Jones is 20.
No, don't even look there.
So you're right. There's a lot of players and a lot of teams that, like the Patriots, they won't mind moving on from him. He's not even shown really anything that's kind of going to keep him on there. Gino, again, new head coach, new regime. Do they believe in as much as Pete Carroll seemed to do? There's a lot of teams in transition this year.
But then also for the first time, if you look at it, we've got close to 32 quarterbacks that have all scored over 100 points. So it's just deep, and it just churns and it just sort of evolves. But yeah, sorry, I interjected. What were you going to say, Ross?
I was just going to say, I think it's when a transition period in the NFL in general in terms of quarterbacks. You've got guys who are older who have shuffled off, like some random guy, not Tom Brady. I don't know who he is, but he's retired. And you've got Drew Brees recently, Ben Roethlisberger, obviously Peyton Manning was around for a number of years, and you've got guys like Aaron Rodgers who are sort of injured and old, and we'll see how he goes. But you've got a transition period.
Rodgers is 40, is it right? 40 or 41? He's not
39. I thought he was 39. But I could be wrong. But either way, like, these are guys who have been in the league for 15 years, and they're just shuffling off, and you need the guys to replace them. And there are a few, obviously, young guys coming up: CJ Stroud, Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow. But there's this sort of middle transitional area where you've got Geno Smith and maybe Baker Mayfield, who are useful to teams, but they're not a long-term answer. And so, like you said, Nate, you see someone like Mac Jones come in, he has a good season, you think, wow, he's going to be a starter for 7 years. He might not be a top-tier guy, but he's going to be a starter. And then suddenly he's unusable in fantasy. So it is quite a crazy world we live in.
That's credit to defensive coaching and the defensive scheming? And do you think quarterbacks are not evolving quicker than defensive schemes are catching up to them? So it's a combination of obviously talent improving and young quarterbacks evolving, but it's also the coaching alongside it. Like another good example that to me is a polarizing player is someone like Tua. So everyone sort of there are a lot of people that love Tua. There are a lot of people that are indifferent to Tua. He puts up a lot of fantasy points, but he's pretty volatile. He'll have a 40-point week and he'll have a 10-point week and he'll go up and down. And it seems like he's getting found out in the big games. I think they were one of the teams, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think similar to Dallas, that they were incredible against really bad teams and very poor against very good teams. And that's, again, not a sustainable NFL project. You can't base it around that. So Tua is a great fantasy, one of the top 10 fantasy players in terms of total points for the year. But I wouldn't be surprised if Miami go and get a flipping quarterback that maybe replaces Tua. Who knows? Like, that's obviously one of the needs for them right now. But why not? Like, why not have a southpaw left arm and have a right arm quarterback and mix it up? I know it sounds silly, but why not? Think out the box. Like, can you imagine they sign a veteran like Russell Wilson, and you've got Russell Wilson and Tua, and you've got one throwing left, one throwing right, and it just sort of changes things. But I don't know, maybe I'm getting too philosophical about my different schemes.
We need to get you in the NFL. You're going to revolutionise the NFL with 2 quarterback system.
Or we find just an ambidextrous quarterback that can throw with both arms. Now that's what we're looking for.
Lamar Jackson did that, during the season. He dropped back to lefty and then turned around. And
he also threw one to himself as well in the playoffs.
Yeah, that was very impressive. That was the best. I think the commentators that was the best reception all game.
Yeah, literally, it was unbelievable.
But going back to your point about like rookie quarterbacks coming in. So obviously we saw Mac Jones. Mac Jones had a pretty decent year and then fell off the side of the earth in his second year and whatever else. CJ Stroud.
Awesome.
Continue going up, or
yes,
was that?
He's different. Yeah, that's a completely different season to Mac Jones.
No, I'm just thinking because obviously with
facilitator.
Okay, it was just more of a sort of thought because obviously some of these rookie guys have, even any position, wide receivers, tight ends, start off really, really well, and then once they've worked out a scheme against them or double team or whatever that factor is. But yeah, it's interesting. Obviously, I agree with you. I think he's got a long term. He looks like he should be the guy that goes on for many, many years. The new face of the NFL, the next Tom Brady. The guy's going to be the face and be around for 20 years and win trophies. But yeah, I think But even look at Trevor Lawrence. He's not quite kept going. I mean, season before last, he really got himself out from Urban Meyer's shadow. Show progression, but I don't think he's quite gone to the heights that some of the way he was touted. Certainly coming up to the draft or entering the league, he's the next best ever.
I think the big judgment or the big sort of benchmark for these quarterbacks is: are you getting to the playoffs and are you winning multiple games in the playoffs now? So you've got your outliers, your Mahomeses. You could argue Josh Allen and Lamar sort of there because they also, on an annual basis, they get to the playoffs, they win 1 or 2 games and lose just before the AFC Championship. Joe Burrow is the same. He's got to a Super Bowl. He might not have won it, but he got there. And that's the difference with some of the older generations. Your Stafford's not a Detroit, but as soon as he rocked, everyone knew he was good enough for Detroit, went to the Rams, won a Super Bowl. You can sort of tick him off. But your Rodgers, serial playoff winner. So that marks greatness, and I think that marks also a tier. And you look at your Trevor Lawrences, you look at your Tuas, you look at your Derek Carrs, not in that bracket, a bit of older, but like these guys don't get to playoffs. They don't win playoff games. So that is a concern. I think obviously everyone thought Trevor Lawrence made a leap, but the fact that they were in what was considered one of the weakest divisions, the AFC South, at the start of the season, they didn't run away with it. And this new kid on the block, CJ Stroud, just blew the door open. He took advantage of the weak division and he smashed it out the park. And I think that's what there is. Look at Baker. Like, if Baker hadn't have got to the playoffs, I don't think anyone would actually be even talking about Baker Mayfield. Like, I thought he had a good season, fine, but nothing special. But they got to the playoffs, and now everyone's saying that they're going to extend him in Tampa and he's the future of Tampa. Like, he's also an absolute mid-tier quarterback, like a Carr or whatever. And I think the quarterbacks that's like even Kirk Cousins, he does get to the playoffs more often than not, and that's why Kirk Cousins has a bit more credit. Russell Wilson still has that credit because he went there, he won a Super Bowl. He's a guy that's been to the Super Bowl with the Seahawks. You took him out of the Seahawks, out of Seattle, and he's battled, but he needs to find his next home. And I think that's the differential is the playoff, the quality to get teams to playoffs and then win in the playoffs.
Also, they are paying quarterbacks mega money, right? So the investment after that first contract's huge. I mean, we're seeing it every time the new contracts. It's 5 years at $55 million, $65 million a season. It does take. I mean, if you, I guess that on that side, they're taking more chunk of the salary cap out. So whereas Rodgers at Green Bay. They had players around him who were helping him as well. It wasn't all down to Rodgers. Great quarterback, don't be wrong, but you also need the weapons around you to be able to do it. I think that's where Tom Brady was probably very clever. Didn't take as much salary as he probably could have done. Kept other players on the team that worked.
He was getting payments under the table. Surely
That's not the point.
He was doing dodgy stuff. He was doing dodgy stuff. I'm
talking about the stuff on the table. He's only, but you know what I mean? He could have demanded $50 million 10 years ago, right? He's won 4 Super Bowls and just pay me. But all right, fine. The full investments into his TB12, training complex and all that sort of stuff, fine. But I think that's where it's not the quarterback is essential. You obviously got to have a great and amazing quarterback, but you also have to players around him to be able to do it at the same time. I think. I think Houston next year would be interesting. Stroud looks like he's the right guy, but will everyone step with him and be as good with him? That's the bit I'd be interested to sort of see.
But I think he proved it this year. He didn't have much around him. Like he had nothing. Like he had Damian Pierce who did nothing. He made Tank Dell. He made who are the wide receivers?
Nico Collins in the league until Stroud got there.
Exactly. So to me. It's not whether these guys stay with them. He's sort of done he has made the players around him better. They didn't make him better. No, now is a case of adding to that and taking him to the next level. But what is the next level? The next level is winning more than one playoff. So if he turns around now and again wins the AFC South, or at least does enough to qualify for the playoffs. To me, that to me is where my argument of playoffs is the benchmark, and I think that's what he'll be striving to do. Is whatever he has around him is making sure he's competitive enough to make the playoffs. But yeah,
cool. Right. Well, that's been a whole hour so far, so that's fantastic. We can spend a whole night. We can spend a whole So Ross and I spent 3.5 minutes talking between ourselves. You've done the last 57 minutes on your own, mate. As much as I can do this all night, I think it's we'll have some more chat in a couple of weeks about the free agency, upcoming drafts, all that sort of stuff, and we'll have a look at that side. Maybe a bit more in depth after Ross's redraft article that drops soon as well. We can have a chat about that. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. Hope you have enjoyed seeing us back on screen again, and see you guys all soon.
Come on.
Catch you later.
Peace out.